This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the Urban Lounge, located at 241 South, 500 East, right in downtown Salt Lake City. Head on over to their website, theurbanloungeslc.com, connect with them on Twitter and Facebook, and find out about all of the upcoming shows.
Showcasing local talent, professionals, and everyday people making Salt Lake City what it is today. It's time for another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the I Am Salt Lake podcast, episode 122. My name is Chris Hollifield. Welcome to my show. Welcome to the podcast all about Salt Lake City. The website for the podcast, iamsaltlake.com. You can find out more about me, find out more about the podcast, subscribe in iTunes, as well as you can actually go through the back catalog and download or stream all of the previous episodes right there on the website. Trying to get this episode up Sunday morning, so I'm recording this intro Saturday afternoon, recovering from a heavy night of drinking, so to say. It was my birthday yesterday, 36th birthday. Had a get together at ex-wife's place there on 7th East in Salt Lake City. So I'm still recovering from that, but wanted to get this up and wanted to get this conversation. I'm talking to, in this episode, local comedian Levi Rounds. We talked to him about comedy, and he's actually part of a benefit that they're doing for Brewvies Cinema Pub Monday, December the 9th. You guys are going to want to go check this out and support it. It's going to be $10. All of the proceeds go to help keep Brewvies alive, help them switch to digital. I'm going to put all the links for that at the show notes, iamsaltlake.com/122. That way you guys can get involved. Go check out the benefit show. If you can't check out the benefit show, kick on over a few bucks to their Kickstarter. They got that going on a few more days, and support them. They're a really great place to grab a beer and watch a movie. Support a local establishment like Brewvies. So with that being said, let's jump into the conversation that I had with local stand-up comedian Levi Rounds as he came over to my apartment here in downtown Salt Lake City. How long have you even been doing stand-up comedy for? I mean, how many years? I was looking at some YouTube videos. I mean, you've been doing it for quite a few years.
Oh, Christ. Don't look at my YouTube videos. I hate them. But, 8. I want to say 8.
That was the first time you got behind the microphone?
Yeah. It was it was late, so I guess it's just over 8. It was late summer 8 years ago. I remember that because I went to the Demolition Derby the night before up in Heber.
How was the Demolition Derby?
Oh, they're great.
You go to a lot of those?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I grew up in Heber City, so you go up and you watch Hicks be idiots, and you play with them, just be the same, not play with them like fuck with them, but like you just be the same idiot. You yell at carnage, and like one year they booed because all the ambulances were gone. And it was hilarious. There's like 5 guys headed to the hospital and they're booing because there was like a pause in the derby.
Wait, so the ambulances weren't in the Demolition Derby. They were taking away the injured
exactly.
people.
And they were all gone, and so the whole crowd was booing because there had to be a pause in the derby because we didn't have enough ambulances. It's hilarious.
So so I know I asked you about comedy, but how was it growing up in Heber?
At the time I hated it. I thought it was stupid, but in hindsight it was great because we could go to either one of 2 lakes. We could go to Jordanelle or Deer Creek, and we could play around in those. We could go, you're like 5 minutes away from being in the middle of nowhere in the mountains and 45 minutes away from a city. Like once you get into high school and you can drive.
So how old were you when you moved to Salt Lake then?
20.
About 20 years
19
old.
or 20.
You were just like, I'm sick of Heber. I need to move to the big Salt Lake City.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to get out.
Get out of Heber.
I love going back to Heber though.
You still got family there and everything?
Yeah. My parents are still there. I go camping with one of my best friends, probably like 4 times a summer, and we drink whiskey and shoot guns, and it's great.
You ever go hunting?
I'm not a big hunter, not because I'm opposed to it, but I'm not really. No, I never go hunting. We just shoot beer cans.
Shoot beer cans. That's kind of like I used to do with the BB gun back in the day.
Yeah, there you go.
And shoot each other.
Yeah, we've got a very strict, like a couple shots in, the gun goes away, but the BB gun comes out. After the real gun goes away, we pull the BB gun out. But there's also a very strict rule where if you shoot somebody, even if you don't mean to, everybody at the campsite gets to shoot you. So you're really aware of where the hell you're pointing the gun.
Were you ever shot with anything harder than a BB gun or no?
No.
No,
never been shot with anything harder. Point blank with a paintball gun in the neck, that's a motherfucker, but...
It would sting pretty hard.
Yeah, that one's not good.
So... 8 years ago, you decided to start comedy. You did like an open mic. Is that kind of the typical comedian story? You know, people see you doing stand up, but it's kind of like I like to find out your history a little bit, what got you going. It was the night after Demolition Derby.
Yeah, it was. So, I had been writing for a while. I'd been wanting to try it probably for like 6 months. And so I'd write quite a bit. But I was too nervous to get on stage. I've got terrible social anxiety.
Really? You wouldn't guess that.
No, you always see me with a beer in my hand. Yeah. Like I totally self-medicate. But so, first time I got on stage, I didn't drink at all. It was a nightmare. I was shaking like crazy. I didn't get any laughs for the first 3 or 4 months.
But you just kept going?
Yeah, it just kept going. Because every time I was like, that went a little better. I didn't get laughs, but I like where the joke's going. And then I finally started to get laughs after the first couple months.
So where was the first open mic?
Moe's.
Oh, so it wasn't even your typical Wise Guys?
No. I didn't go to Wise Guys for a little while. And it was nothing against the club. It was just Moe's was downtown. And I lived downtown. Trolley Square wasn't a thing yet. So it was like once every 2 weeks or maybe once a month. I can't remember, at Wise Guys in West Valley. But getting out there was a motherfucker. The train, you couldn't take the train out there yet. So I just did Moe's. And then we started our own shows. I did a show at Monk's for a little while. We did Club Vegas when that was open.
So anywhere downtown, pretty much.
Yeah.
So you said it took you a few months before you got laughs. I mean, why did you keep going back?
Because I could see the jokes getting better. I wasn't getting laughs, but they were coming together better than at first. And so it was something I could see myself progressing in. And then it's like a challenge to yourself. Like, shit, I've made people laugh. Come on.
Yeah.
You can do this.
So what were some of your early jokes?
Oh, they were terrible. Like mean-spirited. I had a joke about like catching Down syndrome as a cold, like a case of 24-hour downs. And it's just a shitty joke. Just, poking at somebody that can't help it. I had jokes against homeless people, which I don't like to do. I haven't done any of these jokes in probably 6.
So did you grow up like listening to a lot of comedy? Is that kind of,
no, it was never even, it wasn't. I remember I was on a vacation in Las Vegas with my family, and I remember staying up and watching Bill Cosby himself and laughing, but it wasn't, I'm not one of those comics that had a moment like, 6th grade, I knew it. It wasn't like
your family was listening to a lot of comedy.
No, not at all.
Are your family pretty supportive? I mean,
they're super
brothers
supportive.
And sisters?
I've got 2 sisters.
Do they ever come out to your comedy shows at all? Or does that make it kind of awkward?
No, it's not awkward, but they come out occasionally. It was awkward. It was super awkward. I want to say like 2 months ago, I wrote a joke about how I was molested, but not super terribly molested. And my sister showed up to the goddamn show and she didn't know that it happened to me.
She didn't know that you got molested?
No, she had no idea. And so I was like, shit, I got to pull her aside. And I'm an egotistical asshole. I was like, I don't want her ruining the show by yelling out, what? So I was like, I got to pull her aside and I got to tell her about it. So we're at the complex and I go, hey, I need to kind of tell you something. And she's like, what? Is it a big deal? I was like, well, it was. Now it's not. Now it's just funny. She's like, well, what is it? And she's like freaking out a little bit. And I'm walking outside and Christopher Stevenson walks by. He knows my sister. He's like, hey, what are you guys doing? I was like, hey, you know that joke I got where about the guy putting his dick in my mouth when I was a kid? Well, I got to go. And she's like, what? So I wasn't even able to lay it on her softly. I was just telling him, hey, you know the joke about me being molested by the guy?
You had to get right up on stage. You had to do it.
No, I was just an idiot and
You didn't tell her.
Yeah, I didn't break it to her softly. And she just freaked out for a minute.
So what'd she say afterwards?
She smoked a cigarette with 2 hands because her hands were shaking so badly. But about the joke, she said it was funny. Like, it's not a bad joke. It's all right.
It wasn't a bad joke. So, I mean, do you think obviously you've progressed as is it practice that you think you're able to get to where you're at today? Or like, why do you think you're better? I guess that's kind of a silly question.
No, it's definitely practice. I don't go out to as many mics as I probably should anymore.
How often do you go out?
2 or 3 times a week.
That's quite a bit.
It's usually 2, sometimes 3. So it's quite a bit, I guess, but I write every night, except for on the weekends. On the weekends, I allow myself to get weird and end up strange places.
Do you write just comedy, or are you like a short story? What kind of stuff do you write?
Just comedy. I just work on jokes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where do you get your inspiration from?
So every year I try to come up, like I heard Louis C.K. comes up with an hour every year. I heard that like 3 years ago, a new hour of material every year. And so I try and do that. And usually it starts with one basic idea, like being poor. And then I can write, 20, 30 minutes on being poor and different aspects of it. Like I'm working on a joke right now about how when everybody's hypocritical, but when you're poor, it's like little hypocritical things. When you're rich, it's like grandiose hypocrisy. It's huge. So, it just, different things come from a certain idea. And then I like that whole hour to be basically a narrative of about one or two ideas. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I try. So it all comes from that.
Can you do it? You can do an hour set then if you need to.
I can do like 3 if I wanted. But
So have you had, in the 8 years that you've done comedy, have you had many chances to like do any headlining stuff?
Yeah, I headline quite a bit. I travel around. I was just in Idaho like a week and a half ago.
So you get out of Utah even?
Yeah.
We're like Idaho?
Regionally, like Idaho, Wyoming. I lived in Los Angeles last winter, and so I haven't been able to go out very much.
Did you live right in Los Angeles?
Yeah, I lived in right on the border of Silver Lake and Echo Park.
Now, why did you go to California for
comedy? But I couldn't get a job. The job market was just a nightmare.
Yeah, so I grew up in Southern California myself.
Oh yeah, we talked about
Ventura. If you've listened to any previous episodes, I bring it up a shitload, and I apologize for people. It's expensive as hell to live down there.
Oh, it was a night. And I even had a friend. He was letting me stay with him. And then we got an apartment. I got a job for like 2 months, and then the restaurant closed. I went out there with a couple grand, like $2,500.
So you saved a little bit, and you had a place to live.
I got a place to live, and his friend was going to hook me up with a job, but she wasn't able to do that. It's not her fault or anything. She just wasn't able to. And so I went out with $2,500 and came back just in debt.
And you're probably still getting out of debt.
Yeah, I'm still working on it. Or I'm just allowing it to be there.
Well, debt, we're all, once you get old, you're dead. I've given up on trying to get out of debt.
Yeah,
man.
no, it's just,
it's like debt, money, credit cards, what the hell,
Sorry, Comcast, you're not getting that.
Have you gotten good at excuses? I have. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, bill collector again? Come on. We don't need this.
I'll make up excuses to myself. Like, I'm not paying Comcast on principle. It's not because I don't have the money. It's because I believe that they wronged me somehow.
Dude, Comcast is the devil. So 8 years of comedy. You probably have had a chance to work with some pretty cool comedians, or what?
Yeah, Doug Stanhope would be the one.
Here in Salt Lake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have opened for him 4 or 5 times.
I think I was talking to, I had Melissa Merlot recently.
Yeah,
on
she
the
opened
show,
for him too.
And we were talking about that, how he had the Bibles out and he was signing the Bible.
Yeah, that guy's a riot. And everybody thinks he'd be a dick. Super nice.
Yeah.
Incredibly nice guy.
Did you get a party with him at all?
No, not really.
He just seems like he'd be a fun guy to just get like shit-faced with.
Yeah, I'm sure he is, but his fans are absolutely crazy. And so whenever he'd come, we'd have like a half a beer and chat for a second, and then his fans would just bombard him. And he was so nice to him. He'd sit there and listen to every weird story that they have. And But that's what you got to do. You got to get out there and mingle with your fans. So many comedians, they'll come into town, or they'll, or tour, or, even interacting on the internet. It's like you gotta interact with your fans, and they're the ones paying your bills. Oh,
man.
I completely agree.
Yeah. Yeah. What's like, do you have like any embarrassing heckler stories?
Oh, shit.
I'm sure
not
you
embarrassing.
I'm sure you, well, what's your worst heckler story then?
I think the worst one is when I got a knife pulled on me.
You had a knife pulled on you?
Yeah, at Club Vegas on my birthday.
So you were on stage, somebody pulled
it was after my set. It was a guy I kind of knew, just an acquaintance, just because Salt Lake's so fucking small. I was like, yeah, I recognize your face. I'll go smoke a cigarette with you. And then he pulled a knife on me and demanded that I apologize to his girlfriend.
What'd you do?
She was heckling me, and it wasn't productive. It was like, show me your she was just drunk. I don't mind.
Oh, you wanted to have her show. You wanted to see, or she wanted to see
she wanted to see my tits.
Well, who doesn't?
Yeah, right. Look at this flat-chested pile of garbage. But no, she's just yelling stuff. It wasn't productive. And at first I was nice. I was like, can you please just be quiet? I'm just trying to do a show. And then she just kept going and going and going. I said something like, thanks to the chick with the big ugly fake tits and the moderate IQ.
And so he pulls it. What kind of knife was it?
It was about 4 inches long.
Like a Swiss Army knife?
Like a switchblade thing. And I just told him, I was like, no, we're not going to do anything with a knife. I was just drunk enough where it wasn't terrifying until right after.
You're like, holy shit, I just had a knife pulled
Exactly.
on me.
And I actually ended up making friends with his girlfriend. She's like, no, it's okay. I was drunk and being an idiot. And I was like, sorry about the tits comment. They're
And
nice.
please tell me you took her on a date later.
No, that never happened. But we had a conversation for a minute. She's like, put away the knife. You've got too much blow in your system. Yeah, I got punched on stage once at Monk's. And that was on stage. A guy walked
While
up.
you were performing?
Yeah.
So he just comes up, punches you.
Yep.
Come on, you got to share this story a little bit.
So, and this is when I first started. I'd say like a year and a half into it.
Okay.
I was running a show at Monk's, which was, if you remember Monk's, do you remember Monk's?
Below, it was underneath Kinko's.
It's where the Bourbon House is now.
Yeah.
But
great place.
Oh, it was great. But you'd walk in there and there'd be like blood stains on the floor. So it was awesome. The bar staff was awesome, all of that. But so I was telling a joke about the media's perception or whatever the word is of JonBenet Ramsey. Like, she's pretty and white and rich. That kind of a joke. And this guy goes, she's a little girl. You don't need to be telling jokes about her. And I was like, it's not about her. It sucks that she's dead. I'm talking about a different thing. He's like, she's just a little girl. And I just drunkenly said, hey, why don't you calm down? It happened 10 years ago. She's legal now. And he walked up on stage and just nailed me. I didn't even see it coming. I just got hit.
What was the crowd reaction?
Oh, the bouncers just nailed him.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just grabbed him, threw him up against the wall, and then threw him out. So crowd reaction was, we all just laughed
like
at it.
on video or anything? I mean,
no.
I guess smartphones probably weren't.
Yeah, this was before smartphones.
Nowadays, it's like, whip out your iPhone, get the video of that. But so let's say you had an opportunity. I mean, you talk about Doug Stanhope. You got to work with him a little bit. I mean, let's say you did have a chance to open up for anybody.
Anybody?
Like, yeah. I mean,
like
dead or alive.
Dead or alive.
Dead or alive, man.
Oh, shit.
Let's go. Let's really reach into the book
like
here.
Richard Pryor, Bill Hicks, Lenny Bruce would be fucking interesting just because that guy was crazy.
I'm not familiar with Lenny Bruce.
Lenny Bruce is like 50s.
Okay.
He's like the reason that Bill Hicks and Richard Pryor and George Carlin can be or could be who they were.
Really?
Yeah. He was super dark for the time. You listen to it now and it's like mild-mannered compared to, your Stanhopes and so on and so forth. But at the time, he was really, really controversial.
Really?
He died of a heroin overdose. I want to say it's like 62 or something.
In 1962?
Yeah.
Well, the heroin wasn't any good back then.
Right? No, that guy would have been interesting. I don't know. There's a lot. Even today, people like Kyle Kinane or
I mean, I'm
Pat
sure
Oswalt.
if you had any opportunity to so you've traveled a little bit. I mean, do you want to get out and travel some more?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
is that
I'd
kind
really
of
like
something?
to.
Is that like kind of your end goal with comedy, or where do you see yourself with a comedian?
What I want to do is, and I don't have a whole hell of a lot to say in this, but I'd like to get into festivals like Bridgetown. It's in Portland. It's got a great comedy festival. And a lot of people have made some really great contacts just through festivals. And then they'll go to Los Angeles, not necessarily even move there. They'll just go for like a week and get on these great shows with, really good comedians that they meet through festivals and so on and so forth. And then they'll move there later when they've got great contacts. That's kind of what I'd like.
Is it pretty tough to get into festivals?
It depends on the festival, but yeah, like Bridgetown's a really hard one. That's
like what makes it hard? I mean,
just
for
the caliber.
Like myself, I have no idea.
No, it's true.
How
It's
to
true.
get into
The
it,
caliber of comics that are in it and that want to be in it.
But if you get into it,
If you get into it, then
you're really good on your comedy resume.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of great comics that go to that one. There's other ones like South by Southwest does a lot of,
have you been to
comedy
South
now.
by Southwest?
No, I haven't.
But that's kind of a goal of mine to get down.
Yeah,
get
I
down
think
there
that'd be
check
great.
it out.
And they do a lot of comedy stuff now.
Really?
So that would be a great one. But
Well, what do you think of the local comedy scene in general? I mean, do you have any?
when I first started, it was the part of it that like.
Well, you've seen it grow in 8 years.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen it develop. You've seen it evolve.
Yeah, so I'm more a part of like an alternative scene, and that's not for any dislike of the club at all. Wise Guys is great, and Keith has always been awesome to me. I just happen to have more avenues and more stage time, just, like opening for bands or, doing any weird shit. Like I do a thing on Wednesday nights at Johnny's on Second where they do karaoke, but they give me 15 minutes of stage time.
Is that a pretty regular gig that you do?
Yeah, that's every Wednesday.
So if people listening can go down.
Yeah,
check
they could
you.
go down. Yeah.
Johnny's at Second's about what, 10 o'clock at night?
Yeah,
Is that
about 10.
10 o'clock.
And Wise Guys has their open mic on Wednesday, so I can either stay downtown and do 15 minutes, or I could go out to West Valley and do 3. So you weigh your options.
Yeah.
But like I said, so it's a bit more of an alternative thing. And when I first started, there was Moe's, which doesn't exist anymore. But that was around for like
It was a great bar, though.
10, 12 years. That show on Sunday nights was around forever. And then we've, stretched out, like guys like Chris Stevenson and Toy Soup and Arthur Carter. Like, we just go out and get different shows. We do it at the Complex on Tuesday nights now. And so that has grown immensely. And I think that when I knew some of the comics from Wise Guys, the that were there. Like Spencer King's a really funny guy. God,
there's so many great comedians.
There's a lot of really good ones.
Do you feel like Utah kind of holds you back as a comedian, though?
No, not at all.
Like you mentioned, going to L.A., you felt at the time you needed to go there to be successful. Do you think somebody could be successful and live here in Salt Lake as a comedian?
I think you can be successful. I just wanted to give it a shot.
Yeah.
I felt like, not that I'd done everything I could do in Salt Lake, but I won the City Weekly Award thing like 3 years in a row, and I was traveling around regionally.
Talk about that. What you won for the best comedian?
Yeah, just the best comic in the state. I won that like.
Did you win that here for recent 2013?
No, that was Melissa this year.
Well, the Artie Award.
The Artie Award.
You won the Artie Award.
Yeah,
okay.
I won it in like 2009, 10, and 11.
Okay.
Or maybe 10, 11, and 12.
Were you a little pissed off that Melissa won it?
No, I didn't live here. And Melissa's been around forever. She deserved it.
Yeah, she's a great comedian.
Yeah, I wasn't pissed off at all. I would prefer not to be on the ballot just because there's so many great comics. Like your Christian Piper, Jay Whittaker, there's so many good ones. Andy Farnsworth.
What would you like to see different in the local comedy scene? Like if you could change something.
More comics getting out and trying to set up shows somewhere. Just open mics. And also not being pissed when there's, like, I'll go to open mics and comics will be like, the crowd's not very big. Like, I've been to open mics in New York, Boston. I lived in Los Angeles for like 6 months. There's never a crowd at a comedy open mic. It's just comedians. So people here are spoiled. Like, there's no crowd in there. I don't even know if it's even worth performing. To be honest with you, it's open mic comedy. There shouldn't be a crowd. You shouldn't subject people to that. It's like band practice.
You should be happy that there's 5 people there to watch.
Yeah, just be stoked there's 5 people. It really is like band practice. Because if you're a musician, you got a practice space. You get together with your buddies, you drink beer, you work on things. And when you're in front of people, you're at your best, like the best you can be. When you're a comedian, you don't practice in front of a mirror unless you're a sociopath. Like you got to go practice in front of people. And that sucks to put people through that. I never invite people to open mics. I feel so bad about it.
You're like, no, you're not invited.
Yeah, come watch me try and hash out this being molested thing. That'll be a lot of fun for you. Have some beers over that. But
so your advice, just get out there and do it?
Just get out there and try and set up your own shows.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. I don't know. There's always weird... Comedians are just...
Have you like put out any albums or DVDs? Do you have anything
I recorded something right before I left, and I just haven't got it from Ryan. He recorded it for me. It was a good set. I don't know.
Do you play music or anything too?
No.
Did you grow up like playing any bands or anything like that?
No,
just write.
I'm garbage when it comes to music. I tried to play a guitar for a little while. I can't figure it out.
I have kind of some different questions to ask you, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about you're doing a show at Brewvies.
Yeah.
And it's for a great cause. Most of the people here in Salt Lake are familiar with what's going on with Brewvies. But I got some different questions I've been asking some guests, kind of to give an opportunity to find out a different side of Levi Rounds, I guess you would say.
Ask away.
Okay, so let's say if you could have a pet, any pet in the world, illegal or not, what would you have? What would you get? What pet would you have?
I don't know. I've got 2 cats, and one of them I like. The other one's a fucking nightmare.
No, any pet.
I know, I'm trying to think.
Alligator.
I wouldn't. No, reptile. Snakes scare the shit out of me, so nothing to do with a snake. God, I'd say a dolphin, but I saw that the Cove movie.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that. Dolphins would be fun, though.
Where would you put it? Your bathtub?
If I can have a pet, this is an incredibly hypothetical, like I'd have an ocean and it just would know me and just come hang out with me when it wanted.
What would you name it?
Well, I haven't met it yet. So I don't know. You can't just give something. It's always weird when people name their babies before they see their babies. No, this is going to be a Megan. I just know it. Yep, looks like a Megan. How do you know? Yeah, I wouldn't know what to name it until I met it.
What's the most delicious food that you've ever eaten?
You know what I miss like crazy? There's 2 things. The street taco carts in Los Angeles. There's a few of them.
You think they're better here in even Salt Lake, huh?
They were so good. The Salt Lake has some really good ones, but they were so good. And they also had fresh fruit stands where for $5 you could buy the most fresh mango and pineapple. And they give you like 4 pounds of mango and pineapple that they chop up for you. I miss that. That's probably the best food. Just that fresh fruit. We don't really get fresh fruit here.
What was your favorite cartoon growing up?
That's a toss-up between Thundercats and He-Man.
Watched quite a bit of that growing up.
Which, in hindsight, He-Man is incredibly homoerotic. Did you watch that?
As a child, I did, and looking back, definitely there was those undertones. That
which is fine. I mean, it didn't.
Do you watch cartoons as an adult at all?
No, I don't. Not to be pretentious. I used to watch a shitload of TV. I just don't have TV or internet now, so.
So you don't watch anything?
Not really.
You just stare at the wall.
Yeah, I do a lot of writing. Chase my cats.
What are your cats' names?
Brandon and Tiny Heather Mills.
Tiny Heather Mills.
She's missing a leg.
Ah, a three-legged cat.
Yeah.
What's the longest plane ride that you've ever taken?
I've never went anywhere incredibly far, just New York. But I love
That's
the flight.
a long plane, right?
The reason I love it is I would always take the JetBlue red eye, and it would stop for an hour in Denver. And Denver has the best smoking lounge in the nation because it's a bar. It's not one of those stupid bubbles. You can go in there and you smoke cigarettes, and they just make you order a drink, and they'll give you a nice, good, strong drink for relatively cheap, and you can smoke. And then you get back on the plane.
Do they still let you smoke there?
Yeah.
I think Salt Lake, you could still smoke at the airports.
Yeah,
right?
I think there's still like one or two of those bubbles.
Which is mind-boggling to me. You know, I mean,
I think it's because it's an international airport.
Yeah,
like you get so many people from different countries that are just like, what?
Well, yeah, but then there's so many airports that you can't smoke at all in.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's like Salt Lake is still. I mean,
LAX.
come on, we had the private club for members thing here for how long? And when all these other states were banning smoking, and we could still smoke in the bars here.
From what I understand, that's why we got rid of the private club for members. Because it was basically. With that law, it was like a guy's house. So he could say, yeah, you can smoke or you can. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to get rid of smoking, so they got rid of the private club thing.
Which ended up being a better thing, in my opinion.
Yeah. There are some bars I miss the smoking. Like
you
don't
miss like going home just like, I mean, even as a smoker.
I smoke in my apartment. I don't.
Yeah. Well, okay. I mean, you know, I don't know. I just hated.
No, I can understand that side of it, but.
Because I used to smoke like 2.5 packs of, regular cigarettes a day.
Yeah.
And I even hated going to in your hair, and you would just, I don't know. There was just something about a bar.
I can understand that, but like Bert's Tiki Lounge, Jesus Christ, you've got to smoke in that place.
Even if you're not a smoker, you just got to pick a pack of Pall Malls out.
Exactly. Or Cheers to You, that place too.
I love that place. What is your favorite bar in Salt Lake?
Yeah, it goes back and forth. I spend a lot of time at Murphy's. I spend quite a bit of time at Junior's, quite a bit of time at Twilight.
Just all the good dive bars.
Yeah, right I like a good, like, cheap whiskey and cheap beer.
Do you go out to bars a lot?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm single now, so.
Well, yeah, but
I'm not going to do fucking OK Cupid.
Home drinker.
Oh, I drink at home,
There's nothing wrong with OK Cupid.
I can't do it.
You can't do it?
No, I came up with this theory. Here's okay. So men are assholes. Like, that's a given. That's just the way it is. So I think it works for women because they just sift through a sea of assholes, and it's like they just get to interview people, basically. Like, yeah, I'll ask you a shitload of questions. I'll find the least asshole guy, and then they'll go out with him. And that works for them. But I'm just on there. I'm an assumed asshole. And I don't want to take the time to try and convince somebody otherwise. I miss face-to-face. Like, meeting somebody face-to-face. I feel like men need that, like, that 15 seconds of walking towards a girl and seeing the look on her face when she realizes that you're walking towards her, like that.
Yeah, but at least with online, you can kind of like paw through a little bit and be like, all right, she's got a shitty taste in music. She's got a shitty taste in movies. If you meet a girl at a bar, it's like, you got to find out everything about them. I mean, first of all, you got to take the risk that they're even single.
Yeah. But that goes for anywhere.
Not, around the corner and is going to kick your ass.
Yeah. No, that goes for anywhere, grocery store, wherever the fuck. I don't know how people meet people, really. With me, it's alcohol.
So it gives you confidence.
It's just, like I said, the social anxiety. All of a sudden, I can talk to people. Like, oh, yeah. Okay, now I can talk to you. I'm fine.
If you could move to another country, where would you move to?
I've heard good things about Spain.
Really?
Spain seems... I heard Barcelona is like New York City, but with good weather. But with a beach.
So you just based off of what you've heard, that's where you.
I haven't been many places.
Yeah,
but Barcelona. Let's go there. What the fuck?
What's the coolest thing that you've ever been for Halloween?
Oh, so I knew some people that got married in the temple, like Mormon temple.
You did. You knew some people.
Yep,
that happens here in Utah.
Apparently, every now and again, it still happens. It's weird, but the day that they got married, they quit going to church. They said it was the creepiest thing they've ever been involved in. They just quit the church that day. And she's
right after their wedding.
Yeah,
like, fuck this. We're out.
No, we're out of this. And she still had her outfit. The thing that she wore in the temple And she's like, I got to get rid of this. I'm going to throw this away. Do you want it? I was like, yep, I will take that. So it's got a veil. It's got like a leafy apron thing. And it's all see-through. And I put cigarette holes in the veil so I could smoke at Halloween parties. And just walking around in that is a fucking riot. Because drunk guys will go, that's very sacred to me and my family. And like, is it? You're mad at me? Right? You're fucking hammered right now.
Drunk, yeah.
Yeah, it's just...
Do you still have it?
Oh, yeah. It's still floating around.
It's still hanging up in your closet?
Yeah.
For how long ago was that you did that?
Oh, that was a couple years. It's come out in weird, like, drug-induced alcohol situations where, yep, we're going to throw this on. Here we go.
What's the, well, you mentioned you don't watch a lot of movies or TV or anything, but what's the last movie that you watched?
I haven't been to a movie in a little while.
Well, even if you date yourself a little bit, maybe you saw E.T. in the theater or something like.
No, I saw the new Star Trek recently. I like that a lot. But I like shit like that. I really want to go see Thor.
So you're kind of a geeky kind of.
Yeah, kind of. But I'm not like I couldn't do like a podcast about it. I just remember we're at a point in our lives where I can watch a movie and go, oh, that's how it was like in my head when I was a kid. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And I remember, now that you say that, I remember you had a little set at the Geek Show night, and you had some good geeky comedy, whatever.
Was that the Shannon thing?
Yeah, the Shannon benefit.
Oh, that wasn't even really material. So Shannon, who is one of the best people in the world, I love that guy to death.
Yeah, great guy. It was a great event.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. But he won like worst person in Utah. So I just got up and explained how that was horseshit. That he's not the worst person in Utah, and that I should have won it. And so I guess
I was busting up, man. I thought you were hilarious.
I just said terrible things like I remember opening with, have you ever used your girlfriend as an STD test? Like,
and that probably hit home to a lot of guys.
I would hope not. But
you're like, wow, so I'm not the only one here.
Seemed like a funny joke at the time. So,
what was the last TV show that you watched?
I got Seinfeld on DVD. I've been watching that.
You're one of the few that keep watching.
It's still funny. I don't even necessarily, I'm not a big fan of his comedy. I don't hate the guy, but that show was just funny.
Yeah.
Like, I just watched the contest episode where they were trying not to jerk off or whatever. It's a good episode. It was just funny.
What's one of your favorite habits that you have?
Oh, I love smoking.
You just love it. You don't never want to quit.
I never have a cigarette that I don't want to have, but I still want to have like 30 a day.
It's expensive though, man.
Yeah. Genie's is actually pretty affordable.
So, what's your favorite word to say?
Oh, shit.
That's your favorite word?
No. What is my favorite word to say? I never really, what's a word? I say fuck a lot, but that's not my favorite word. It's just like a thinking word. Just like, and then the fucking thing about, you know what I mean? I call my cat a faggot all the time. There's no sexual connotation or anything. It seems to be what fits. So yeah, I use that word a lot, and my friend. So yeah, we'll just go with that one.
With faggot.
Yeah. What the hell? I have people hate when some people hate when I say that, but it's not like, to me, it's just like a word.
It's just a
like,
word.
If you use it and there's no hate in it, and then it gets overused, like people say paddy wagon. That was an incredibly derogatory term back in the early 1900s. Because it was they throw the drunk Irish in a van and they called it the paddy wagon because they all happen to be Irish. Or like, I got gypped. That's really offensive to gypsies, but nobody gives a shit. So I figure if you overuse the word faggot, eventually it'll be like paddy wagon. Mm-hmm.
Do you think people get too uptight with words, with being too PC, with being, oh my gosh, I can't say that word.
Oh, I definitely think that.
This and that.
And that's a rough thing for me to say as like a white dude. Because I did get called a faggot all the way through school, though.
I could see that.
Well, thank you. No, and it was even at a time like when I was like, you're not exploring your sexuality, but you're thinking about it. I was like, am I gay? I don't know. I could make out with
this guy keeps saying I am, so I must
No, it
be.
wasn't. I never even attached. It was just a word that meant they didn't like me. With me, it wasn't like I better take dicks in my ass because he called me that. It was just a word that meant he didn't like me at all. But I knew what it meant. But at the same time, I'm like thinking about shit like, could I make out with a dude? Yeah, you could probably do that. But I don't like dicks. I don't find those very attractive. Yep, definitely into women, but I could make out with a dude. So you're like trying to figure out like, am I a faggot? No, he's just being an asshole. That's all it is.
And now they're all a bunch of cowboys out in that area.
Yeah, they like run the deli at Smith's in Heber.
If you could try out any job for a day, what would you like to try?
Any job? And I wouldn't die?
Yeah, you wouldn't die. Just you give it a whirl.
Well, it'd be fun to play with big cats, wouldn't it? Not a Siegfried and Roy type of thing, but
like
on
lions, or are we
Yeah.
talking just like overgrown kitty cats?
No, like lions, like hang out with tigers, like raise a tiger cub. You ever see those? I'm a sucker for those stupid videos where like, oh, the guys raised that lion and then they let it out into the wild. It's like from the 70s or something. They go looking for it on the reserve and then it comes up and gives them a big hug. And I'm like, tears. That's the only thing that makes me cry.
I think I'm finding out way too much about you.
We haven't even gotten into it yet. This is still my first beer.
What's the biggest personal change that you've ever made?
Biggest personal change?
Yeah, like, something that you've had to overcome, something you've had to change in your life that was the toughest.
I wouldn't say it's an overcome thing, but so the majority of my adult life, I was in a relationship with somebody. And one person, we were in a relationship for like 7 years.
I like how you said somebody. It could be a male or female.
No, it was two different girls. So we were in a relationship for like 7 years. We're still great friends. I hung out with her this weekend for her birthday. And then after that relationship, we just kind of grew apart. We broke up. I jumped into one pretty quick. And then we broke up. We were kind of like off and on while I was in Los Angeles. And we broke up earlier in the spring. And so being single for the first time in like 10 years has been fucking interesting.
Oh, absolutely.
If you, like you mentioned, I don't know if you bring it up on here, like you.
I was in a relationship for about 11 years.
Yeah. So when you're single, like that first, and it's only been since, I don't know, April, maybe May, but it's just, and knowing that I don't really want to be in a relationship and just being on my own and doing whatever, that's been interesting because it's been like a decade in the works.
Well, you're discovering yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, who the hell am I?
Yep.
Alone.
Exactly.
Who am I without this person?
Yeah. Weird shit like, oh, can I pay the power bill? Yeah, it turns out I can do that. I just never did.
I can wipe my own ass this whole time.
Exactly.
I don't need somebody to help me with that.
Yeah.
I can make my own dinner.
Yeah. I'm figuring out how to cook shit.
Yeah. What's the biggest lie that you've ever told?
Oh shit, I don't know. There's a big part of me that like sometimes lying is like a sport. Like like you're talking to somebody at a bar or a party or a family reunion that you don't even necessarily want to be talking to. So you just start telling them lies to see what they'll believe. You ever do that?
Oh, absolutely.
So I
think most of us tell lies to just fabricate our own shitty lives. It's like, oh yes, I did this and this, and it's like,
I don't think I've ever done it to like try and further myself in any way. Like a lot of comics will be like, yeah, I know so and so or whatever, to try and make people make them feel like people will think they're more important than they are. And I just like, I don't do it that way to like try and make people think I'm better. Usually it's the back way. It's like it doesn't work that way. Like they'll find out I'm lying. Like, oh yeah, I wasn't an offensive lineman in high school football. I don't know why you believe that.
So that would have to be probably
just the amount of times I'd done that would have to be.
What's something you wish everyone knew about you?
The social anxiety thing. I wish people would. So like it's weird to talk about.
What makes it? I mean, you don't think.
They're like, oh, you getting on stage. It must be super hard and blah, blah. Well, yeah, but you just drink a little. It's actually harder to like go shopping, like go Christmas shopping. I have anxiety attacks when I'm Christmas shopping. Just because people are so fucking rude and I'm like overanalyzing everything. I'm like, that person's letting their kids run all over the place. That one just hit me in the ankle with their cart. Why can't we be more silly? And then you just freak out. I got to run outside, smoke a cigarette. And
so you think it's weird to talk about?
Yeah, it's a little strange to talk because I don't know where
think people can relate with you a little bit. Maybe?
I think some can. A lot of comics can.
Yeah.
There's a lot of comics with just terrible anxiety, which is strange.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I wonder, do you think you got into comedy to kind of help with your social anxiety a little bit?
Maybe. I don't know. I think it definitely comes from most comics, especially the really good ones, just overanalyze everything. Like every situation. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like they're just, okay, why is that person doing that? Why? I don't understand why they think that is fine socially. And then you get to thinking like, it's because nobody has told them they're being an asshole their entire life. She's like 55 years old. Done this every time she's been at the cashier, like talking on a phone or whatever. Nobody's ever told her she's an asshole. And then you start freaking out going, why is the world so shitty that nobody ever told her she shouldn't do that? Does that...
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. But I think you're probably analyzing things a little too much.
No, I am, but that's how comics work.
No, I'm fucking with you.
Okay. No, and you're
now
totally
you're
right.
probably analyzing me here now.
Yeah, now I'm analyzing. What am I doing here? Shit.
Where am I at? What am I on here? Would you ever skydive or bungee jump?
I think I would skydive. I've got a fear of heights, but I have a feeling I'd fucking love it if I could get out of the plane. Bungee jumping, it's weird because those heights, like if I'm in a plane, like even taking off, I'm like, oh, that's not bad. Just like, but a fear of like standing on top of a parking garage, those heights terrify me.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you remember down at, what was it, like a 45th Street Galleria or something?
Yeah.
Remember when they used to bungee cord jump and it was like right by the freeway and you would drive by and you'd be like, oh, somebody's jumping. I don't know if you remember
I don't
that.
remember that.
Yeah, like there was a place that you could bungee cord jump. I don't know. Anyways, but if you knew that you were going to die tomorrow, would you feel cheated today?
No.
Like, would
No,
you
not at all.
feel fulfilled?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd find some fucking heroin.
You'd find some heroin.
I've always said I would do heroin. Like if I found out I was terminally ill, because I hear it's so great.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've heard the same
But
thing.
if I found out I was terminally ill, I would find heroin, and no, I wouldn't feel cheated at all.
You feel you've lived a pretty good life.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Would you go back and change anything?
I probably sometimes I think I would say something like, "Oh, I should have started comedy earlier," but I didn't have any life experiences yet. Like you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I don't know if we got it. How old are you now, if you don't mind me?
33.
33.
So I started at like 25.
That's not bad.
No, it's not bad. But then you hear like, there's some great young comics and they're like 21 and they're really good. And sometimes it pisses me off because I'm like, you don't even have any life experiences, for fuck's sakes.
Yeah.
How are you making anything funny? But they're just genuinely funny people. But I don't think I would have been a better comedian if I would have started earlier. So.
Well, let's talk about you're doing, you mentioned before we started recording, and I'm glad you brought it up, Brewvies Cinema Pub. Favorite place I like to get a beer and a movie at.
Yeah, it's one of the best places in Salt Lake.
One of the best places in Salt Lake. They actually have a Kickstarter going on right now. You're doing an event. Talk about that a little bit.
So I only know a little bit about it because
Well,
it just got confirmed, but I'll
okay.
fill you in on everything I know.
Yeah,
It's on Monday the 9th.
So if you're listening to this, hopefully this will go up Sunday before the 9th.
Tomorrow.
So tomorrow.
Yeah,
we'll
so
say.
go tomorrow. I think it's at 7 p.m. I want to say it might be 8, but shit, get there at 7 and drink beers with me. And it's $10, and I think there's about 8 comics. So what it is they need to switch to digital. So what does that mean that they're on right now?
Analog?
I was just going to say the same thing. It might, they need to switch their projectors to digital so they
I
can...
love movies, but I don't know much about
Yeah,
it.
exactly. So they can continue to be awesome. They have to switch to digital, and it's not a cheap thing. So that's why the Kickstarter thing's happening, and that's why the comedy show thing's happening.
Which I'm looking at the Kickstarter, and of course when, we're recording this, they need to reach $70,000 on their Kickstarter, and they're like at 21,000 right now.
Oh, Jesus.
And, it ends December 14th. And I'll get a link for the Brewvies Kickstarter, and I'll try to find out more information. If you can find out more information, I'll put links on the podcast show notes and all of that.
There's a Facebook event page for it.
Get if I can't find it, if you can email that over, I'll put that on the link. So if you're listening, I'll put a link with that. Do you know the comics that are going to be part of it? I
know 2 of them. I don't remember them all, but Jay Whittaker, he does the Geek Show podcast. He's at Wise Guys all the time. He's really funny. There's a girl named Taylor Hunsaker that's a riot.
She's been on, both of them have been on the podcast. Yeah.
Let's see. The guy that's putting it on, his name is Christopher James. So if you go on Facebook and look him up, you'll be able to see the event.
Okay.
So
do you know, was it like $5, $10?
I think it's 10.
$10.
It's 10.
But it's going to go towards
it's
the cause.
It's going to go towards that. And it's going to be in the actual theater, so you can like bring your beers in, sit in the theater seats.
And hopefully it'll sell out.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But so Monday night, a Monday evening. What else do you have to do on a Monday night in Salt Lake, right?
Yeah,
so I'll try to get all that on. Support Brewvies. Like I mentioned, the Kickstarter, I'll get all that links in. And I'm glad you brought it up. I've been, it's a great cause. And
it really
I've
is.
been wanting to talk more about it on the podcast. Do you go there to see movies a lot?
Yeah. And they do the Walking Dead thing.
I thought they had to get rid of that or something like that.
Oh, that's right. They did have to get rid of Walking Dead. They do other TV shows, though, don't they?
Yeah, well, then they got the old classics they play for free.
Exactly.
It's great to go
It's such a unique thing in Salt Lake. You can go get a beer and watch a movie. It's great.
Yeah.
It's one of the best places to go see a movie is going to be fun but shitty. Like, I went to see Live Free or Die Hard there. You just laugh through the whole thing. Like, you know it's going to be a terrible movie.
But you're like, I got a beer. Who cares?
Yeah.
And you don't have to deal with kids there.
No, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's like one of the worst parts to me about going to a movie.
Yeah.
Is the kids. Well, you know, you grew up in Heber, but you've lived here in Salt Lake. You know, I always like to ask people, especially their first time on the podcast. Obviously, I'd like to, bring you back on down the road. But since it's your first time on the show, what do you like about Salt Lake? Like, just in general, besides comedy, just in general, what do you like about living in Salt Lake?
The stuff I was saying earlier about, like, growing up in Heber, the mountains were so close. They still are. We could drive 45 minutes and be in the middle of goddamn nowhere and have a blast and go hiking, or like there's cliffs to dive off of an hour and a half away, go south to the desert. And the proximity to that is awesome. And then the fact that it's like, it's a big city, but it's still, you never go anywhere and you're like, ah, shit, I'm going to get shot here for sure. It never feels that way. A lot of people hate that it's small and you know a lot of people.
Everybody knows everybody.
I kind of like knowing a lot of people.
Yeah, it is true. You know, I've talked to people on the show. It's like you can go somewhere and it's like you're going to probably run into somebody.
Exactly.
You know.
But it's still big enough. There's still plenty of people to meet. All you have to do is get out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
So I like that. Like, if you want to go and just wander in somewhere where you know somebody and you know you're going to know somebody, you can do that. Or you can try something new.
Would you change anything about Salt Lake? Or would you like to see something different?
The goddamn inversion.
Yeah.
That's it. Just that month and a half, 2 months of not seeing the sun. Everybody's depressed.
I mean, but
there's nothing you could change about that.
Yeah, how would you get rid? I mean, in all reality, do you think driving less would really help it?
I think so.
I mean, it seems like it would, but you kind of begin to wonder.
Yeah, I don't think it'd help a ton. And people are so fucking selfish that they're not just going to, not everybody's going to quit driving and take public transportation, which it really isn't that bad. No, I like taking my own car to work because it's my time to think. Well, who gives a shit?
Well, think on the public transportation.
Yeah, just think on the bus.
Yeah,
you can read a stupid book.
Yeah.
But
well, you were going to say something.
No, that was it.
Okay.
That's the only thing I could think to change.
Do you have any, I always ask people recommendations, favorite eating spots, favorite diners, local restaurants that Levi Rounds would recommend?
Plum Alley, Tin Angel, Copper Onion.
Did you used to work, or do you work at Tin Angel?
I did. I used to work at Tin Angel. I don't work there anymore. I actually work at Plum Alley now.
Oh, great. I haven't had a chance to go to Plum Alley.
You should go to Plum Alley. It's good. They've got a late night menu that's really good. Not a lot of like bar late nights with menus.
So what would you recommend? Like, say
any of the steamed buns, like the pork belly steamed buns.
Okay.
The curried fries are really good. At dinner, the kimchi stew, the ramen. The ramen is fucking great for a hangover. It sounds stupid, but it's so good. It's got pork belly and pulled pork and 20-hour pork stock and egg, pickled ginger.
Do you get into the local music scene at all?
I don't so much.
Yeah.
I used to. Like 8-9 years ago, I'd go out all the time. I could tell you great bands from 8 or 9 years ago, and some of them still play every now and again.
Just curious who they are. Who do you
like? The Red Bennies were great. Yeah, Toll Chalk Trio.
Yeah.
Starmy was always fun to go see. But it's weird to think that was like 8 years ago that they were playing. And now you'll see them do a show and you're like, yeah, it's like a high school reunion. Fuck it, I'll go.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to add? I mean, how can people, you're on Facebook, you're on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook.
Do you have a website or?
No website.
No website.
Facebook's like a website, right?
What if, this is what I tell people. What if Facebook was to go down tomorrow?
Then I got Twitter.
There's always the next social media.
Yeah, there's always something coming up. Yeah, if Facebook was to go down tomorrow, I'm sure we'd all survive, but we'd figure out a different way.
So yeah, I'll get, do you care if average people add you as a friend on Facebook?
No, please do.
Yeah.
And add me on Twitter and follow me on Instagram. I take weird pictures of my cats.
And just Levi Rounds, I guess. And I'll try to get the links on the show notes.
Yeah, it's nothing weird. It's all Levi Rounds, LeviRounds.
And then you have, so the 9th at Brewvies.
Yep.
And then you mentioned Johnny's.
Yeah, we do Johnny's on Wednesdays. It's like karaoke and comedy. And then on Tuesdays we do, it's called Comedy Roadkill. It's an open mic at the Complex.
Okay.
And bear in mind, it's an open mic. So
and that's free. That's free.
That's free.
A free event to go to.
Yeah. So is the Johnny's one.
Okay.
So.
And that's karaoke too?
Yeah.
Do you ever get up and do karaoke?
No, I am fucking terrified of karaoke.
Really?
Yep.
Have you ever done it?
Never. Not once in my life.
I've actually been kicked out of a few karaoke bars.
Really? I can imagine that.
After a few drinks, I like to do a little Madonna or...
If I did karaoke, it'd be Garth Brooks.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do it. It's seriously, it terrifies
Are you a big Garth Brooks fan?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
I think it's nostalgia. I think that's what I grew up listening to it and I hated it then, and now I can sing all of Papa Love Mama, which I'm not going to do right now.
I'm going to make you do it.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Anything else you want to add, Levi? I appreciate you coming and sitting and chatting.
I can't think of anything. This has been great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And I always tell people we'll catch up down the road.
Yeah, totally.
Many thanks goes out to Levi Rounds for coming on this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Levi, for coming, sitting down, chatting. I'd love to know your thoughts by giving the podcast voicemail a call. That number is 385-202-5926. Love to know your thoughts on this episode or any of the other previous episodes of the podcast. Or if you guys want to get involved, if you want to come on the show, call up that voicemail, drop me an email, and let me know what you're doing here to make Salt Lake City just a little bit better, like I like to say. Hey, they got a couple of recent reviews. Stitcher Radio is actually, you can leave a review for the podcast right there on Stitcher. So if you haven't left a review yet, I would much appreciate it. Just takes just a few seconds. Got a few reviews I want to read. Thank you for those of you that have left reviews. Chip and Jay write, "This podcast is awesome. Chris does an amazing job with his podcast. If you want a great listen that will keep you entertained, listen to I Am Salt Lake." Thank you, Chip and Jay. Love your guys' podcast as well. If you haven't had a chance, I'm on that podcast about once a month, so check that podcast out. SLC Bob writes, "Great show. Love every second of this awesome podcast. I look forward to every week." Thank you so much, Bob, for listening. Hopefully you keep on listening, and thank you so much for your review. One more review left on Stitcher. This is from Ryan W., staying on top of Utah's best. He writes, "I have been listening to I Am Salt Lake podcast for over a year, and I'm always amazed at the talent that exists in our community. I have found more than a few jewels in the city just because the question, 'What is your favorite place to eat?' is asked of each guest." Keep up the great work. Thank you so much, Ryan W. Glad you're enjoying the podcast, especially since you've been listening for over a year. That is very much, that's really awesome of you for your support, and love that you're finding out about some great restaurants, as am I. I love asking the guests, what is your favorite place to eat? Some awesome places here in Salt Lake City to grab a bite at and try to support local. You know, I say this time and time again, there's so many chain restaurants, there's so many chain places to eat, but at the same time, there is so many fantastic local restaurants here in this beautiful city of Salt Lake. So if you have an opportunity, check that out. Support local, especially as we get into this holiday season. A lot of really great crafters, a lot of really great local businesses to support. So when you're out buying a gift, try to think of how you can keep your money here in Salt Lake City. Hey, that's going to do it for this episode. Again, my name is Chris Hollifield. IamSaltLake.com is a website. You can find it on Facebook. Just search for I Am Salt Lake. Follow me on Twitter at I Am Salt Lake. Call up that voicemail line. Love to hear you guys' thoughts. 385-202-5926. It's going to do it for this episode. Catch me next week. And until then, support local and love the city that you live in.